Hi, Malika.
Hi, Holly.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back to not only the Sonder and Salt podcast, but to a topic that we've covered before. A topic that the first time we covered it, we cut the cameras dead ass.
Oh,
so there were no visuals. There were no visuals the first time we covered this topic. And I feel like it is one that went under the radar with some people. And it was called the Keith Lee effect. But we're here to revisit this topic again because unless you have been living quite literally under a rock, I feel like if you engage with this podcast, you are probably a little bit of a social media animal, just because that's how we've always shared it and that's how we maybe would have heard of it. So I can imagine that you TikTok or your Instagram reel and you've probably heard that Keith Lee was in the UK recently. And when we spoke about Keith Lee the first time around, we kind of gave his background and stuff like that. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode, then you can do. But I think since we last spoke about him in that level of depth, he has grown on his socials. I think when we spoke about him, he had 11 or 14 million followers on TikTok. He now sits at 17 million followers.
So do you know that 17 million is insane? Like
17 million is insane. He had not done as much external press, I think, at that point. And I did watch a lot of it. I didn't finish the whole thing, but he did a podcast called Club Shay Shay.
Yeah,
with Shannon Sharp. I watched quite a bit of it, but it was a very highly produced podcast in terms of like great production value. They were in a car. They were doing it very Keith Lee style. They were going from spot to eat. They filmed some of it at his house. He's definitely been doing the rounds with building his personal brand outside of Keith Lee in the car. However, there is still Keith Lee in the car. And he's also, I guess, naturally amassed a certain amount of wealth. He's made money from this whole Keith Lee thing, so he doesn't have to stay in his hometown anymore. He's done quite a lot of American tours, road trip tour kind of vibe, would you call them?
Keith Lee was on tour.
Keith Lee on tour.
Going around the country, and he's gone international now, is the problem.
Yeah. So is the problem. Like I said, problem, not me. He has used some of that money and brought his family, and I'm assuming like his team, to the UK. And I'm saying the UK because he currently is still here, but it seems he's just come to London, right? Like,
well, he came to the UK and said, you know, he's coming to the UK. He wants to hit up London, Paris. And a couple of other places. So first of all, we weren't sure if he was coming or not because Paris is not in the UK. Paris is in Europe. But I think for a lot of American people, when
Paris is in France.
Yeah, Europe. Yeah. Like that's not the UK. But for them, because of the proximity, they see the UK and Europe as kind of like one place. And so if you're in London, you're basically in Paris, which you jump on the Eurostar, you can be there in 2.5 hours, but it's not the same place. I think he only made it in and around the London area. I actually don't think he went anywhere else.
No, I don't think he did. We're just going to talk about it. Today's episode is food highlight list. We're just going to talk about it. We're just going to jump straight in. Talk about our opinions of it. Talk about what we've seen, what we agree with, what we don't agree with when it comes to the commentary that surrounded it. But my problem from all the way over here, I'm not even in the UK, is that he didn't do enough research.
Boring, because we said this before about Keith Lee, and part of it is because of his methodology. He wants to be led by the people. He wants the people to tell him where to go. It's the comments. Hit me up in the comments. He wants somebody with their little struggling restaurant to DM and ask him to swing by. Although you've got 17 million followers, I don't know how they sift through the comments. I actually don't know who engages. You also get a lot of nonsense on TikTok, and people will encourage you to do nonsense, but it's not necessarily what you should do or makes the most sense. So, okay, but wait, he never does the research.
He never does the research, but I would say that that's not even what's happened here, because he's done enough of the research, and maybe it's kind of evolved to look like research and it was more reactive than it seems, but he did know who to hit up and do content with. Like, he did take some of that inspiration. So it's like, okay, for once, you actually did do some of the research, I guess, a little bit yourself, or you gathered it from the comments, but enough that you've probably written down a list to be like, okay, guys, on Monday, we're going to do this. On Tuesday, we're going to do this. On Wednesday, we're going to do this. On Thursday, we're going to do this. It's just that there was no one behind the research other than you. Like, clearly, you and the comments, because he knew to eat with Todd's recommendations. He managed to sit down with that Kieran guy, filthy food fella or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, you're not that disconnected entirely from what goes on when it comes to like reviewers followers and people that are doing a similar thing to you over here. But just the choices that you made and the things that you did or are doing. This is still rolling out, by the way. We are reporting live from the middle of the UK Keith Lee tour. I can't even guarantee that it's over at this point. By the point of recording this, the last video he posted was a place called Melly Mellow, and it seems that he's eating a roast there, a few different kind of places. What is your initial leading what's gone wrong with the Keith Lee UK food tour?
I think my initial unfiltered thoughts are that, first of all, there's a perception of what the UK is. And I think there's a lack of understanding of what London is as it exists within the UK. And so when you're coming on a UK food tour to London, there's a particular experience that you can have, and there's an experience you don't have to have. And I think the multiculturalism in London is often missed because the general perception, this is me generalizing, not all Americans are like this, but there is just a perception of the UK. First of all, it is a majority white place, and it's very like ye olde English type vibes, ye olde English menu. And the TikTok that I keep talking about with Harley is the one with the guy that says, you know, it's not as good as my mother's fizzy wickets and brickle brackle and all of that kind of stuff. And it's very English. And I think there is still that English culture, but then when you're in London, the culture is very different. We know that London is an anomaly within the UK. And if he was coming to London to experience London, I think he would have navigated it very differently and had quite a different experience. And I think that started to evolve as his week progressed. And I don't know if that was always the intention or if it was reactive based on the comments that people were putting in. His first video was a hotel breakfast. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, the hotel breakfast, I don't even want to know about it. We don't even care. I think the comments...
But the thing is, I don't not want to know about it, but you make such a good point about like what is quintessentially English and the ye old England vibe and the London comparison, because I do love a full English breakfast, but the ones in London are nouveau, you know? Like there's one at Dishoom and there's one here and there's one here.
Breakfast.
No, never from the... No, but this is the thing. I would care if that hotel was a boutique hotel in the Cotswolds. I might trust that it would be banging. Do you get what I mean? So it's like, I think for me, you're right. He should have called it the London food tour and then never had the English breakfast at all. He should have not had one unless he was maybe going to a cafe in the East End, like a Legacy Roman Road or something.
I think he could have had it.
He just didn't need to conquer it.
I think he could have had it, but I think for the type of community that he's built, he has no business showing us the review of the hotel breakfast. Like, he could have saved it. Maybe you want to put it on your Instagram story or something like that, but to sit down and be like, I'm in London and I'm having a full English, and your first reviewed meal of your food in London is the room service. Is the hotel.
It's not even the hotel. Breakfast. It's room service.
Do you know what killed me? Because people were like, "Are you in a travel lodge? Like, what is this breakfast?" Like,
yeah.
Are you in a travel
And even
lodge?
like the dark corner in which he's kind of sitting in as he eats it, because it's giving very much like this is the only corner of this hotel with a clean wall.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know where he was, but it was like, you didn't need to, that was just kind of ridiculous. If you want to come and try a full English, because I think regardless of where you are in the UK, a full English has its like regional variations, but it is still very much like a UK English type of thing to experience. Breakfast is a big deal to a lot of people. Cool, you want to have it, but you've had it at the hotel breakfast. Well, don't even waste your time. Do you know what I mean? But okay, no problem. So yeah, I think my biggest issue, I would say, is what did you come to London for? Because I think when he announced that he was coming to the UK, it was like his thing is always about putting people on, putting restaurants on that need to be highlighted, that need more exposure.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get that from some of the spots that he chose to go to. And it was like, I think you've actually come here because you're curious and you want to experience it. And that's not your usual MO. Do you know what I mean? So some of the places we've gone to were more, they were quite popular already. So if you just want to say, guys, I'm here, and I'm not going to lie, I hear all the stuff on social media about UK food, I want to see if it's really hitting or not, then fine. We could have gone on that journey. And if you want to ridicule it, you can ridicule it, but you kind of came here on more of a like, I'm going to the UK, like cool, he's going to experience it, but if there's anywhere that I should be shouting out and all of that kind of stuff, then let me know.
As a brand, he needs to diversify his formats. That's the thing. Because this whole Radio 110 is tired. Like, it's tired and it's not applicable to all things. And it also, this is the big thing that you've said many times, not all food can be enjoyed takeaway, and it can be enjoyed in a car, or it can be enjoyed in a particular way. So because he hasn't done that as much, fair enough, he did have the room service and he did decide to have like the One Love food in a car, and he did decide to have like, he still decided to have a jacket potato as a takeaway in a car. Like, this could have been a perfect opportunity to launch a series in which it's like, Keithley actually eating food where other people eat food normally. Like... And then had he diversified even the series, but he could still be doing his very like Dubai culture is so much takeout. Like I literally just ordered one, like so much takeout. But I guess not really that like on the go takeout. It's very much like to home takeout. No one goes and picks it up, it gets delivered to you. There are places that he could go and travel the world and still run 1 to 10 because the fact that they have mastered here how to keep hot food hot and how to keep cold food cold. And the cutlery they give you almost feels like real cutlery sometimes, you know, so fine. But it all comes down to the fact that who are you? What do you represent? And therefore the level of research that you do in order to meet that bar is so low that you don't even know that. Like you don't even know that the foods that you decided to eat and the culture that you decided to come to would never do this, like ever in a million years. Number one, order a jacket potato from out a door, takeaway, and then eat it in my car.
But how much of an impact does that have? I think for me, as long as a restaurant can put it in a takeaway box, then they've set themselves up with a supply chain that allows for takeaway. But when you come to the UK and when you come to London, takeout culture has really grown post-pandemic, whereas in the US, takeout culture is part of the culture. A restaurant in London, you may or may not be able to take this food home. Some of them will tell you no, like we can't give it to you to go. And some will. In the US, it doesn't matter where you go. It's very, very rare unless you go to like a very expensive fancy restaurant. It's normal. Do you know what I mean? When that's normal, the access to the restaurants that you have is just much broader. In the UK, there is more emphasis on dining in and there's just more emphasis on sitting in the restaurant. So there's exclusions that are going to happen when you have a format of sitting in your car, taking the food away. So you're either going to be at a takeaway or you're going to be in some kind of street food situation, which it's not to say that they're all bad, but again, you're limiting yourself in terms of the potential of what the UK or London actually has. And then you're comparing it against places in the US where the range is just not the same. So I just think it's a shame.
And you're comparing...
I think we had this conversation in the episode where it was like, oh, if he came, where would you take him? And I was like, I probably wouldn't really want to take him anywhere because I'm going to go to a restaurant. I'm going to a restaurant and you're not going to meet me in the restaurant. When my babes Hidden Shortcut open, I was like, that food is not to go. It's not to go.
Yeah. No, I agree. Which is why I'm just like, he had the opportunity to create something great here, which is like make the Keithley on tour brand completely separate from the Keithley 1 through 10 brand. Like make it something different. Like have someone on the ground come and film you. Evolve this thing somehow, some way. I remember in the club Shay Shay interview, I think he was basically like, there's no team. Like it's him and his wife. And it's like, okay, well, how far can you get with that? Like if you need experts to come in at some point and manage your 17 point whatever million follower empire and push it in a certain direction, because this could have been a great opportunity for you. Like this could have been fantastic, but is this hard line, I don't even know, resistance or like just force to stay 1 through 10. Like not everything can be 1 through 10, but I'm just going to read out the list of some of the places that he went to. Some places you may be familiar with, but just that when we're talking about stuff. So the first video was the full English breakfast. He just put London, England, as if that means anything.
Because he was in the travel lodge and he doesn't want us to know.
I feel like, you know, those people on TikTok that can find you wherever you are. They'll be like, hey, find me. I bet you can't find me from this selfie or this like mirror reflection. Somebody needs to find me. That guy that was doing it to Ayame, whatever his name is, he looks like the guy from Yuval.
Oh yeah, where he's basically trying to show
he used
how
to find
easy,
her.
Yeah,
he used to find her in hotels that she was saying it all the time. They gamified it and it was safe. But he's sitting behind a very distinct piece of art and I'm seeing some kind of branding on the tray. Oh, the search term is saying, oh no, that's just chitlins. Anyway, right, so he did full English breakfast. He did a restaurant called Kinea Mugimaru. I haven't actually watched all of these videos. It's in takeout form. He did Terry's Cafe in London for another full English breakfast, which is in Southwark, and he seems to have actually eaten that one in. I think that's the one where he ate the haggis and everyone was like, why are you even bothering to just hate it? He then went to Guanabana, which is a place that I've been to and quite enjoy, have a good experience with. He then has listed One Love Kitchen and he keeps putting London, England. But I was shocked because I was like, my local, when I was living in London, was One Love. And I was like, surely this can't be the same one. And it's One Love in Chadwell Heath. And I can see throughout the video that he does get DM'd by the One Love that's in Chadwell Heath. But the one that he goes to is not that. He goes to One Love Kitchen in Islington.
Sorry, guys.
So, yeah, not really sure what happened there. But that he eats takeaway style in the car. Tawa Roti, which is a Trini, it is a takeout, but I believe that it's like, can we call it yard food food shop when it's not Jamaican, but that's the only way I know to describe the situation where it's like there's a bench to eat at in the restaurant.
Oh, but that's like that's a takeaway where you have the option to like perch up. It's like a chicken shop with a corner to stand up and eat.
So he perched there. He did not take this to go, although primarily they would take it to go. Then he went to Maureen's Kitchen in Brixton. This one he remembered to call Brixton. Everywhere else was just London, England. Then he went to the Flygerians in Peckham, Spud Bros, not sure which branch. And then, as I mentioned, the latest video at the point of publishing this was Melly Mellow. So a range of types of food, but as you were kind of talking about, the multiculturalism of London is that this food is not like English, the same way that when he eats, I don't know, food in Harlem, it would be like Dominican or it could be anything.
I don't think that he only eats American food. But I think when you decide to go international and actually leave the country, because even if you're in America, the experience that you have of certain cuisines is still going to be like adapted to a degree to your palate. And I think there's a lot of things that Keith Lee eats that are quite similar. His palate seems quite limited in terms of what he likes. He has a lot of the same things. I see him have maybe steamed veg sometimes, like fried chicken was really good, waffles a lot, and that kind of stuff, which we said in the previous episode. But I think there is a different mentality or a different kind of openness and also a different duty of care that comes when you want to start going internationally and expanding into different cultures and stuff, because he's not going to like everything. That's just the reality of the situation. And I think there's a sensitivity that comes when you start tapping into different cultures where you're rating it 1 through 10. You can do that. Do you know what I mean? But it's important to acknowledge when some things are cultural, they're not for you, but they are what they are type of thing. And I think sometimes with the way in which he navigates stuff, you've come over here, so you're probably experiencing more of different things. It's like, well, this is not for me, but actually, what is this stuff anyway? And just bringing other people into the conversation, I think would have been cool, because I think the audience that he has, it still came off just very much as food in the UK is bad. It's not good. And it's just like, first of all, it's different, and it's different for various reasons. And it might not be to your palate as an American from a certain part in America. But anyway, guys, this is this, that, and the third. Yeah. And just other people to kind of navigate you through it and talk through it, which I think when he was with the Flygerians, I didn't watch it in full. It seemed like, I don't know if there was an openness, but again, for me, it's just not my content. He's not my kind of content creator to engage with. And these are the reasons why, because it's like you've just gone to a country and been like, no, bad, good, bad, good,
yes,
good.
But what you just said about a duty of care. And that phrase sticks out to me coming from every corporate handbook I've ever read, every, customer service type situation. And that is the approach that you would have if you were correctly running your 17.1 million follower audience as the business and as the brand that it could be. But he's not. And I think that's why he doesn't believe that he has to have any of the things in place that actually helps what takes people from reviewer to critic, what takes people from one position to the next position, because he's just being like, I'm just a guy. Like, I'm just a chill guy. It's like, you can't just chill guy your way with 17 million followers. Like, you can't. I think it's so irresponsible, because it's almost like what you've seen other people do grow with their growing influence. Kylie Jenner, for example, many years ago. But when she was like saying, I'm just a teenager or I'm just a young adult. And it's like, okay, you're a young adult with 200 million Instagram followers. Like, it's not the same. So I completely agree with you that he should, but he should have done other things in order for that should to even be possible. He should be running this as a professional brand, as a production company. He should be not necessarily a production company, sorry, that's not right.
Yeah.
Not running it as a production company, but hiring a production company and making this a thing. Not the regular Keith Lee content, but the something else. That there is no reason why Keith Lee's food tour would not have made him an absolute killing as like a little Food Network spin-off or a little YouTube premium spin-off, or stick something on Patreon and actually invest in the thing.
What his intentions are. So like Mark Wayne's on YouTube, he's got 11.1 million subscribers on YouTube, comparatively big platform, clearly makes money off of it. He goes around globally and he tries food from all over the world, but I think he goes in with a different mentality. His intention is just different. So Keith Lee always talks about, he's just trying to put people on. And I think if you're just trying to highlight businesses, he's trying to understand, is it just the marketing? Is the food bad? What's the problem? X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. Whereas I think Mark Wayne's is a bit more, I'm trying to showcase cultures. I want to try and experience it. Along the way, there are things that he's going to like. There are things that he's not going to like. There are things that are going to be beyond his palate because of, how he's grown up. It might be too spicy.
Yeah.
And so I think with Keith Lee, there's a limitation when it comes to, I'm trying to put small businesses on in terms of his approach, because it's always going to be from the angle of, I think this food is good and I think you should know about it, as opposed to, here is some food, do with that what you will. And I think that's why a lot of Keith Lee's audience can be quite sheep-like, where it's like, as well, if he says it's good, I'm just going to go there, rather than exploring the food in any great detail. So I think all of those things would come if he had the desire or ambition to showcase food in a particular way. But I think he's limited by his initial intention, which is, I just want to taste some food, and if I like it, I'm going to tell you guys to check it out, type of thing. And that's why he keeps running into hot water when he goes to places and he doesn't like it, because it is truly subjective. There's no objectivity in his approach. As much as he wants to be, he can't be, because if he says it's not good, he has the ability to finish someone's business. To
take it off the face of the earth.
Rather than going in and saying, here's a restaurant and it's struggling, this is what they do. There's just no neutrality, but they can't be, because it was grown off of him saying, I went here, I tried it and it's hitting, you guys should check it out, rather than exploring food and food culture in any real depth. So when he's come all the way across the pond to the UK, to a culture that appears to be vastly different from what he's used to, and has a reputation over there of not being that great, he could have looked at it through a different lens of, I know that there's a perception, I'm coming to find the best, I only really want to deal with the best.
Curation. I'm literally just sitting here. I've never seen this Mark Wayne's guy. I'm just scrolling through his content just from thumbnails and watching someone silent here. And the thing he does is like, he does it the way they do it. And I think an interesting conversation for us to have generally in life one day, you can't just place the food as you like just said that he does. You can't just be like, take food, silo out of culture and expect to understand that. Like, part of the experience of that full English breakfast, it might be connected to family. It might be connected to routine. It might be connected to a hangover. To be honest, a Saturday morning hangover is quintessentially British. Like, whether or not you partake in it or not, there's no person that looks at English culture and is not like, yeah, they drink too much and they're always hungover. Like, that is the truth of the matter. Do you know what I mean? It's going to hit different in a hotel. Of course it is. It's going to hit different in a place, but it's going to hit different without the context too. Like, the experience of, and I'm looking through as well, Keith Lee's videos, where I just don't think he's generally having a good time in the UK, because who for their food tour goes in the middle of February or January, like the time in which he started this tour? In between all of these clips, he's walking in the rain. He's like trying to keep his little locks dry in his hood, keeping them poked out. He's got his hood up. He's got a scarf on. I'm like, you're not having a good time otherwise. So the context and the situation that you're choosing to enjoy this food, and fair enough, that is quintessentially British. The weather is usually awful. But my family will ask me all the time, like, oh, should we come to England? Like, should I come to London and whatever? And I'm like, no. No, don't come in November. Don't come in February. Come between June and July, or June and August, maybe, or June and September.
Yeah.
That is when you're going to have the best experience. And it's like, he's doing the most, and I've seen so many comments, to deliberately have a certain type of experience, which does require the same curation that had he just channeled these efforts of curating a horrible time, he could have curated a great one.
When you say deliberately, you think he's come here to just see if it really is as bad as they say it is? Because I think...
Well, it's just laziness. It's just general laziness.
I think you're saying like the best time to go. I think that for me is what I don't always get from his content, which is why I'm not really interested, because I don't get from him, I'm trying to get the best out of this. I'm trying to get the best out of this place. I think the onus on the comments and that kind of stuff, I don't know how I feel about it, because I just think there's a better way to research and still get the people's voice coming through than just people shouting at you in the comments.
Go with
about
what's this
going
Mark
on.
Wayne's guy is with people. Like, I don't know them. They might be amazing careers in their own right. Yeah, with locals. So it's like, okay, put the thing up the way you normally do. And it's like, hey, I'm coming to London. Where should I go? And somebody like, you're right. I saw Rashida in one of these comments being like, you need to go here. You need to go there. Like someone that helps us on the podcast, one of our friends. So you could have been like, okay, great. Are you, the person who recommended it, around on Friday to go with me to ensure I have the best experience possible?
Well, that's
the same way that
he did to a point. That's why he ended up at Maureen's or Bokitla, because he went to Bokitla and he tried their food, because that's what some people think is the best. But I think also when you've kind of done it last minute, I don't know. The thing is, I'm not confident that he was trying to get the best out of it or the best out of the experience. And that's important for me. I like to engage with content that is focused on trying to highlight the best of something. And it's not to say... you shouldn't have any awareness of what's not great. But why do I want to know the food that's not that's not the absolute best? And I would want a full experience. And I also want to be in a restaurant, like I said. So, and for you to get the best out of London, food culture, street food, and that kind of stuff has only really become a thing in the last few years or so. And I would say just before the pandemic, even places like Dinerama, it wasn't even really like a street food type of thing. It was a very curated street food experience in a confined space. So the ideas of like street food, takeaway, that kind of thing, it's almost, I can't think of what the word I'm looking at, but it's almost like even a selling point in London because it's so not the norm. So to really come here and enjoy like London food experience, yes, you can go to the pop-ups and a couple of the street food vendors, but you got to be in the restaurants. I really feel like if you're going to come here and you're not willing to sit down in some of these restaurants, I'm surprised that nobody took him to like Hawksmoor, for example. Like, you're in London. It's not even to say that Hawksmoor is the best, but if you've come to London, Hawksmoor is very English. A lot of these English places as well, unless you're going to get a fish and chips, they're restaurants, like they're actual establishments.
What stood out to me was he's going to go to a Gordon Ramsay spot. Like, he just is. Like, and he hasn't. Because it's
maybe it's in the drafts. Let's see.
Maybe it's in the draft. Maybe it is in the drafts. But that, I thought a similar thing to you. I wasn't even thinking about the type of food, but I just thought, who stands out in your head as being like British chef that you know very well from America? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, there may be others that are more obvious to us, but Gordon has such a massive presence in the US. You know who he is. You know what he's about. He is quite quintessentially British in terms of the way that he generally does cook, although he does have a variety of restaurants and stuff. He's an amazing restaurateur. But yeah, why haven't you gone to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant? You are Keith Lee. You're telling me Gordon Ramsay couldn't give you a table. Gordon Ramsay
where is the table going to fit? In the car? Like, can we be serious here? The table is not going to get in that van. It's not. So already that struck you off. For me, the kind of person that I want to engage with, you've come to London where the first or the second Black female Michelin-starred chef exists. That's where I want to be. That's the kind of person that I want to engage with. Those are the experiences that I want to see.
That's where the producer in me is just like, this could be so much better. Because now you've put an idea in my head where Keith Lee is on tour and he has an actual van and there's a table in the back of the van. So everything does still come takeaway form, but you're giving me the impression you're in a little van with pictures on the wall and like, it could just be so much more. Keith Lee, hire me, but also don't, because I don't really want to work with you. But it's so frustrating.
I think at the end of the last episode, I was just like, he is who he is. Like, I think sometimes there's the expectation that he's going to do more or something different from what he has shown to do already. So when he said he was coming, I watched the video and I put a long LOL because I just thought this is going to be a shit show.
I saw you in the comments actually.
It's going to be a shit show. Like, that's the only way around it, because you've come to London to do up your takeaway type of thing. It's just not going to translate in the same way, and it's not really going to demystify any of the stereotypes online. And you're probably going to come and eat a couple of ridiculous things. And some of the things I hope, like Flygerians, I would hope that you'd have a positive experience there. Bucket La, we've spoken about them before. They've been a highlight for me. I would hope that you can enjoy something like that. But are those experiences the be all and end all of what London has to offer? No, I think you really, to get the most out of a place like London, you really have to be able to find yourself in a restaurant, because I think we do really good restaurants. I think he's probably going to have a similar experience when he goes to Paris, trying to do up his takeaway kind of culture where dining out, eating, like sitting in a restaurant culture is so much more. Yeah, it's so much more important over there. In the same way, if I went to somewhere like Thailand and I wasn't into street food, it's going to limit my experience, because that is part of the culture. So
you're right.
He can't do that everywhere. You can keep that. You can do that stuff in America and be fine to a degree, because I still find that boring. I think there's amazing actual restaurants, sit down restaurants.
Or you tailor your approach and you produce it, and you do Paris the takeaway version and you do Paris the Parisian version. So you do the takeaway version in the sense of, I've got 10 croissants, let's rate them 1 through 10. Because who's really sitting in to do that? I've got baguettes from the best 3 bakeries on this road. Let's rate it 1 through 10. Like, I've got coffee. You know, I've actually come here. I've got coffee. I've got chocolat chaud. I've got, you know, all of the bits that you can take away. And then there is Paris, the Parisian version. But I think he will run into problems in Paris though, because Paris and French culture is, no.
Yeah, they're a bit more like, you want to take this away?
You want to take this away?
My steak that I just made?
No.
Only in the restaurant. You cannot take this away. No.
Only here. And how is he planning to even manage to enjoy? I think French food does, or we know we've discussed the joy of cooking and French culture and French cooking schools before. French food is so much more than British food. The things that he wants to enjoy, how will he enjoy them? Because moule marinière has to come out steaming. Like, that is what it is. Fondue has to be remaining on the fire to fondue. Steak has to, fair enough, it will rest for a little while. But if you put it in a foil box, it's going to continue cooking. Steak frites in a takeaway box? Impossible.
Yeah.
Like, sacre bleu. Sacre bleu. How's he going to do it? I am very interested to see what that looks like because I am a hater and I want to see how this rolls out. Paris, I didn't hear where else he said maybe he might do Amsterdam while he's on the side of the world. I don't necessarily think they have, from the American perspective, like a booming food scene, but I think he will know enough about it from America and potentially just want to give it a try.
The UK that has Paris. I think that was a tour.
Oh, the UK with Paris. Right, yeah. Sorry, my bad.
That's what he said. I don't know if he's going to go to Europe, but...
China with Dubai.
Yeah.
It's just
I think for me, I had no desire to defend myself, the country, or the food to someone like Keith Lee, because I just think we're just we navigate food very differently. And also, I don't expect him to like certain things or to enjoy certain things. And I think that's okay. I just don't think he's allowed himself to really experience London food
fully,
in the best way, because I just think the setup here is different. If you want to get the best out of something, I think the problem with having a set structure in which you do something doesn't allow you to be adaptable to cultures. And if he was coming to London and he was just about the food in London, he would be in more restaurants, and that would give him a more varied experience, a broader experience of how we actually do things, because I think the restaurant culture in London is very strong. I don't think the takeaway culture is very good, and I don't think every culture is represented to the best of its ability. But I think when it comes to having good restaurant experiences, I have some fantastic restaurant experiences in London.
Welcome to Sonder and Salt, the weekly food podcast for food lovers, with a food highlight in a restaurant almost a restaurant every week. Every week. There were very few episodes that we did together when we were both speaking about London, where number one, we even ate in the same place that week. There were so many places for us to choose from. How many places we had ever really, like a couple we've revisited, like we've gone back again. But other than that, I don't even know how many episodes we made. There's over 80 unique takes, recommendations of London restaurants, and Keith Lee couldn't find any of them.
And I think his setup works in a country that he's used to. Like, that's your country, those are kind of your people. So I still think it's limiting by not sitting in the restaurants and actually having the full experience. But cool, maybe you're not, maybe it's not as important. But when you're in a foreign country and you keep isolating yourself in your experience by eating the food in the car or something like that, and not actually immersing yourself in the full experience of that place and that culture, I don't think you're really going to come away with having any better understanding of life in London or anything like that. So I know there are a couple of examples where he has done that and he has kind of immersed himself. But I think if that had just been the approach, and it would have been better, and it would have showed in some of the selections that he had made as well. And it would have just given a broader viewpoint. And I think utilizing one of I can't stop him from doing anything. Do you know what I mean? But do you need to have a jacket potato from Studbro? Did you even want to? Or have you gone for the most outlandish thing to kind of try? Like, to what end?
I want to read some of the commentary because this has actually been my favorite part of the whole experience. So a creator called Natalia has done like a little selfie video with some text over it. And it says, I would never have called myself super patriotic, but I have never wanted to defend my country more than whilst watching Keith Lee's London food tour. Nothing will ever beat a good English breakfast, Yorkshire pudding with gravy, or scones with jam and cream alongside a cuppa. There are so many amazing spots in London. How is he even finding some of these places? Do Americans not know how diverse British cuisine is? In the comments of that, it says, because who is choosing to eat along the road from Embankment Station?
We don't do that here. Like, we don't do those things here.
We just don't do them things. Another creative video, which I actually might want to play out loud, is from Charlottine.
This is a message to the Black British creators who are incredibly eloquently defending the cuisine of our home country against Keith Lee's criticisms. I just want to say, firstly, thank you for your service. I think it's great to have people speaking up. But secondly, why don't we just let him? We just let him. If he wants to eat the world's worst, driest fry-up and then complain that each of the ingredients tastes like the thing it's made from, let him. If he wants to never know the joy of hot buttered toast with baked beans and loads of cheddar cheese, let him.
I just thought that was absolutely fantastic because that is such a Malika energy thing to have, number one, just to be like, let him. And that's exactly where you're starting to. It's just so funny because I just don't understand what he and his brand are trying to gain out of this. The funniest take of all has been Mexican Spartan, and he's an American creator, but he's Mexican-American. And he's basically just done like videos trying Mexican food, but reviewing it how specifically with this style of review that Keith Lee is giving the UK, which we've all acknowledged is different. It's not seeing the positive in things. It's not approaching mum and pop shops. It's not what he does when he's in the US. And it's just so funny. I'll link it in the description. But it's even the camera angles. They're just fantastic. But he's starting to eat, well, he'll tell you.
We got it. Let's try it and rate it 1 to 10. So it's got meat and tortilla. It's missing the stuff like a chipotle, sour cream, beans, rice. It's a little plain, but let's try it out. Cilantro, put some onions, hot sauce. Looks like it's not processed, so it's probably bad. Seasoning. I can taste the meat, and I can taste the tortilla. It could use a little bit of barbecue sauce.
It's just meat and tortilla. And that is what he did when he ate every element of the fried English.
Yeah.
One nibble at a time. Like, who has ever eaten a hash brown and gone, like, this is the
How he's
inside of
holding
the
up
hash
the
brown.
imaginary hash brown to the camera.
The imaginary hash brown to the camera, like it's a beauty product. I did see a good video that was like, he lacks so much knowledge and research about English cuisine that I don't even think he's ever seen anyone eat a full English breakfast. Like, he hasn't even thought, how do they approach this? How do they do this? He's heard of this concept, beans on toast, and literally scooped some beans, put them on a piece of toast.
Oh yeah, there was no butter. It just wasn't the same.
It was practically beans on bread.
Yeah. I'm pretty indifferent to his existence on social media. Seems like a lovely guy when it comes to providing for his family and all that kind of stuff, but the content he creates, his approach, it is just truly not for me at all. And someone like Mark Wayne's, I'm sure there's other creators, but Mark Wayne's, like I said, has got 11.1 million on YouTube. So he's pretty big. But the way he explores food and culture, and it's just more immersive, and it displays more of an intention to highlight and showcase and bring awareness of how things are done, as opposed to, I'm gonna check it out. And let you know, did I like it or not? That's just too reductive for me personally. So
lazy.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Lazy
personally.
and boring. Hopefully this is the last time that we speak about Keith Lee on this podcast in this way. Obviously he's going to come up again. And I think what would be interesting is for us to kind of make note maybe of the places he's been to in the UK and see what the knock-on effect is in the next couple of weeks and months, and just like keep an eye out, because this episode you're listening to, the next episode we'll actually record the other way around. So we have had a conversation with our next guest. I won't give it away, but she did say that she's seen already housemates' experience of going to, I believe, the Flygerians. And that it was busy and it was heaving and there was a queue and it didn't look anything like the other TikToks that she saw. So yeah, let's see what the Keith Lee effect really does, because we do often see the follow-up, because he does live in the area that he frequents. You get to see the follow-up video of the queue around the corner and you get to see that kind of stuff. So let's see if there's any aftercare, any duty of care for what he potentially may have done to some of the smaller businesses that we do know, rate, love, the Bucket Lars, the Guanabanas, the Flygerians. Any final notes, my sweetheart?
No, but I think if we've got any American listeners out there and you are coming to the UK, life outside of London in the UK is very different, first and foremost. So
yes,
be mindful of where you're taking yourself to and the regional differences there. But if you're also coming to London, just keep an open mind, be willing to actually go to some restaurants, and just know there's vast variety of cultures and cuisines that are represented in London. So there's no pressure for you to come to London and eat English food. Most of us probably aren't eating like that on a day-to-day basis. And in 1 week, I could have Jamaican food on Saturday, Vietnamese food on Friday, Indian food on a Monday, Chinese. Like, there's just so many different things. Somali, all different types of bits and bobs.
Sure.
So Ethiopian, all sorts. And if you're that kind of person that wants to experience a wide array of cultures and cuisines from the perspective of like London, then I would say come over. If you're coming over to try Fizzy Wickets and Hog's Bottom, whatever, Save
Harry
it.
Potter food, basically.
Yeah.
If you're coming over to eat Harry Potter food, don't bother.
Just save it.
My
yeah.
final point is someone who is doing it really well, actually, and I've mentioned her before. Her name is Olivia Coined Girl Dinner. I've spoken about her before. I met her at Cherry Bomb Jubilee last year. Her sister, Olympic gold medalist, has now had a amazing run since the Olympics. Celeb boom. She was on Dancing with the Stars in the US. She's really become like amazing champion for women's sports as a whole, funding, and she's done a lot of different social stuff. She just got signed this year to the Bristol Bears, like as a rugby player. So she's now living in Bristol. Olivia manages her sister, so they have moved to Bristol. And on the weekends now, and just generally in the evenings, they both massive foodies, hence her sister coining Girl Dinner and being at Jubilee and all this stuff, have been experiencing England. And I love the fact that they call it England and they are experiencing England, or they're experiencing Wales sometimes, I guess, if they go the other way. They're doing quintessentially English things and they're going for very like Bridget Jones style moments and very, you know, the holiday cottage cabin getaways and going to little spas and experiencing Bristol, and they're going to like the lanes and the little quaint roads and the cobbled streets. And I really, really love the way that they are, as Americans, approaching English food, the English dining experience, and saying it for what it truly is. Like, we are at this little family run thing, whatever. It was amazing. We got a roast, we got this, we got that. So if you're interested, definitely follow them whilst they are living and working out of the UK. And yeah, I've already saved some recommendations because I've got a friend that lives in Cardiff. So when I go through, Bristol is not that way. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Good luck to everyone continuing to consume Keith Lee's content. I think I might have to tap out. I've seen too much this week. Let me know when something interesting happens. I'm sure you will.
Nice.
Right. We'll catch you guess in a very Keith Lee-less next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.